It was just another Tuesday, or at least that's what I keep telling myself. I worked the night shift at a corporate office downtown, records department, pretty much the graveyard of data entry. No deadlines, no pressure. Just you, the screen, and the constant tick of time. I liked the quiet. Until that night. It started around 2:13 a.m. The fire alarm went off, loud, shrill, a repetitive scream echoing through empty floors. Now, we've had drills before. They're scheduled, organized. But this one wasn't on the calendar, and more importantly, I was the only one scheduled to work that night. I stood up, heart pounding harder than it should have. Protocol said to evacuate, even if you're alone. So I grabbed my jacket, my bag, and headed down the emergency staircase. The stairwell was darker than usual. The emergency lights flickered, not like they were broken, but like they were, deliberately stalling. By the time I hit the ground floor, my phone buzzed. No signal, no notifications, just a black mirror reflecting my own unease. I pushed through the main exit doors, expected to see a fire truck, maybe some security staff, at least flashing lights. But the street, empty. No sirens, no people, not even passing cars. I stood there, drenched in misty rain, staring up at the office windows. The entire building was dark. I waited and waited, but no one came out. No one ever came out. That's when it hit me. What if I was wrong? What if it wasn't a drill? What if I just abandoned the building during a real emergency? I couldn't live with that, so I turned back, pulled the door open and stepped inside. The lobby looked different. Dust-covered chairs, papers yellowed and curling, plants withered to dry husks. The reception computer was gone, just a hollow square where it used to be. I walked to the elevators. Their lights were dead, numbers scratched out, as if no one had touched them in decades. I took the stairs. With each floor I climbed, something felt heavier, like the air was too thick, like the building was sighing. I reached the 9th floor, my department. The door creaked open, and that's when I knew I'd made a mistake. My desk was there, exactly where I left it. Only now everything was coated in dust. The lights above barely flickered on, humming like they were waking from a long sleep. I moved to my workstation and saw a folder sitting on the desk. It was labeled Evacuation 1997. I opened it. The first page, a list of employees who died in a fire on October 7th, 1997. Right there, third from the top, my name. I staggered back, confused, panicking. I ran to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, looked in the mirror, and the man staring back at me was older, hollow-eyed, burned around the neck. He opened his mouth to scream, but no sound came out, because it wasn't a reflection. He was behind the glass. Smoke began seeping in under the door. The fire alarm started again, but now it sounded muted, broken, like a memory replaying badly. I ran back into the hallway. The exit door was gone, just blank drywall. The memo board next to it? It had one note on it. Don't go back in. I don't know what I walked into. Some time loop, some echo of the past, or maybe I died that night, and this is my drill every night. Same alarm, same mistake. If you ever hear the alarm at night, don't go back in, because some buildings remember, and some don't let go. I've always preferred working late. It's quiet. No meetings, no calls, no small talk. Just me, my thoughts, and the steady hum of silence. Last night was supposed to be just another night like that. So I was finishing up a monthly report, half asleep, hunched over my keyboard, sipping cold coffee that had lost its will to live hours ago. Every few seconds, the lights above flickered, not enough to be alarming, just enough to be annoying. That's when I noticed it. A memo on my desk. Leave before 3:07 a.m. No sender, no letterhead. Just those 4 words. My first thought. A prank. Someone from day shift messing around. I chuckled, then glanced at the wall clock, 2:59 a.m. That chuckle didn't last. Something about the way the memo was worded. It didn't feel like a joke. I looked around the room. The office was empty. Silent, but suddenly that silence felt wrong. I went to toss the memo in the bin. That's when I heard it. At first I thought someone else had come in, but the lights at the end of the hall began shutting off, one by one by one. And those footsteps, they didn't echo like they belonged, they dragged. I backed toward the elevator, slammed the button. Nothing. Tried the emergency stairs, chained shut. I fumbled for my phone. Dead. No signal, not even a no-service bar. Just nothing. The lights around me blinked, then held. My clock now read 3:05 a.m., 2 minutes left. I stood there, not moving, footsteps getting closer. Then a voice, not loud, not angry, just wrong. Still here? I looked up and I saw it. A figure, far end of the hall, standing still. It raised its arm and pointed at me. Everything stopped. The lights shut off. The air felt thick, like breathing underwater. I heard the sound of paper crumpling. Looked down. The memo now had a second line. Too late. They found my workstation empty. Coffee cold, chair still warm, memo gone. But later that morning, the janitor swore he saw someone sitting at my desk. He said the man looked tired, looked like he wanted to leave, but couldn't. So if you ever find yourself working late and you get a memo with a time on it, don't ignore it. I usually enjoyed the late shifts at the office. Something calming about the empty cubicles, the soft hum of fluorescent lights, and the quiet that settled after everyone else had left. But tonight felt different, heavy. The air was thick like breathing in syrup, sticky and oppressive. I glanced at the clock, 4:17 a.m. The digital numbers blinked oddly, slower than usual, as if time itself had hesitated. Shaking off the unsettling feeling, I returned to my computer screen, trying to finish the report that was due in a few hours. Then I heard it, a soft tapping, like fingertips gently drumming on a desk somewhere behind me. I turned sharply, scanning the dim office. Rows of empty desks stretched out, shadows pooling beneath them, motionless. My eyes lingered on the doorway at the far end of the room, barely illuminated by emergency lights. "Hello?" My voice cracked, the single word hanging unanswered. I chuckled nervously. Probably just the building settling, or maybe the janitor. But my reassurance faltered as the tapping began again, louder, closer. I stood, slowly approaching the sound. My footsteps echoed softly on the carpet, mingling with the persistent tapping. It was coming from Sarah's cubicle. Empty, her computer shut down, her chair neatly tucked in. My heart pounded erratically as I reached her desk, peering around cautiously. Nothing, no sign of disturbance. Relief washed over me momentarily. Suddenly, a sharp beep tore through the silence. My computer restarting. Confusion replaced relief as I rushed back. The screen flickered, displaying lines of gibberish, nonsensical symbols cascading downward. Then, a message appeared clearly in bold letters. "You're not alone." My breath caught. The lights above flickered, casting frantic shadows around the office. My pulse hammered as panic rose. "Who's here?" I called out, desperation leaking into my voice. Only silence replied, cold and indifferent. Then I felt it. A breath, warm and fetid, whispering across the back of my neck. Spinning wildly, I saw nothing but emptiness. The phone on my desk began ringing, shrill and insistent. Trembling, I picked up. "Hello?" I whispered. Static filled the line, a low hum building slowly into words. "Turn around." Frozen, heart drumming in terror, I obeyed. At the far end of the aisle stood a figure, silhouetted against the faint glow of emergency lights. Tall, impossibly thin, it swayed gently, head tilted unnaturally to one side. Who are you?" My voice quivered. Slowly, the figure raised an arm, pointing directly at me. The lights above burst into darkness, plunging the office into absolute blackness. Gasping, I stumbled backward, colliding with my desk chair. The tapping resumed, louder, faster, echoing from every direction. It closed in, surrounding me, suffocating me. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. Lights flickered back to life, computer humming quietly. The office was empty once more, as if nothing had ever happened. But I knew. I felt it. I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I'd been a night guard at the old railway station for over a year. Most nights were routine, patrolling empty platforms, watching for trespassers, occasionally guiding a lost traveler. The station had seen better days, its cracked tiles and peeling paint reminders of a bustling past, now reduced to echoing emptiness. But tonight was different. It started around midnight. I was sipping lukewarm coffee in my cramped security booth when I noticed something strange on the monitors. Platform 3, long unused and cordoned off, was flickering with faint, intermittent light. Strange, I muttered, squinting closer. Static briefly filled the monitor, clearing to reveal a shadowed figure standing motionless beneath the old clock. My breath hitched. What the? Grabbing my flashlight, I hurried out into the chill night air. The platform stretched out before me, dimly lit by ancient lamps. A bitter wind blew scraps of paper across the ground. My footsteps echoed as I approached where I'd seen the figure. "Hello?" I called, voice shaky. Silence responded. The clock above suddenly chimed loud and jarring, though its hands hadn't moved in years. A shiver crawled down my spine. Footsteps echoed, soft yet distinct from behind me. I spun around, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Nothing. A distant whistle pierced the air, mournful and impossible. The tracks had been unused for decades. Fear coiled tight in my chest. "This isn't funny," I shouted into the empty station, desperation seeping into my voice. Then I saw it. A pale, translucent figure standing on the edge of the platform, staring down the dark tunnel. The figure was unmistakably human, yet blurred at the edges, like mist given form. "Sir, you shouldn't be here," I managed, voice barely above a whisper. The figure turned slowly and I gasped. Hollow eyes stared through me, face twisted in sorrow, mouth moving silently. It raised a trembling arm, pointing into the tunnel. "What do you want?" I pleaded, frozen in place. With another shrill whistle, the figure vanished. Shaking, I glanced into the tunnel, a gust of wind sweeping out, cold and sharp as a blade. I stumbled backward, retreating quickly to the security booth. On the monitor, platform 3 was empty again, quiet as the grave. But every night since then I hear the whispers, echoes of the past, waiting, watching from the shadows of platform 3. It's funny. You think you're used to working alone until the silence starts feeling louder than the noise ever did. I worked the night shift as a janitor at an office complex downtown. Nothing fancy. Empty cubicles, long hallways, vending machines humming louder than the AC. Just me, a mop, and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights for company. Tonight was supposed to be like every other night. Clock in, clean the floors, empty the bins, clock out. Simple. Around midnight, as I pushed the mop bucket down the main hallway, I noticed it first. The light started flickering. Not the usual flicker either. It was synchronized, like a wave moving toward me. Each light popping out, one after the other, down the hall, getting closer. I laughed it off. Faulty wiring, old building. Happens all the time, right? Right. An hour later, as I cleaned the third floor break room, I heard a door slam shut somewhere behind me. It echoed through the empty space, loud, sharp. I froze, listened. Nothing. The weird part? The only other key to this building was hanging on my belt. I decided to check the security monitors, little black and white CCTV screens stacked above the reception desk. Most just showed empty halls, still as a photograph, except for the break room feed. There I was, pushing my mop, cleaning, business as usual. But right next to me, almost shoulder to shoulder, was another person, a janitor. At least, that's what it looked like. Dark uniform, cap pulled low, mimicking every move I made. I stared at the monitor, heart thundering in my ears. There was no one else in the break room when I was there. I was sure. I looked back toward the break room door. The mop I left leaned against the wall, dripping water onto the floor. No sign of anyone. But when I glanced at the monitor again, the figure was now looking directly at the camera. No movement, just standing there, staring. I told myself it was a glitch, maybe old footage replaying or something. maybe. But as I turned away from the monitor, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a wet footprint appear on the carpet right in front of me. No footsteps leading to it, just a single, fresh, wet print. I backed away, fast, grabbed my keys, headed straight for the main doors. That's when I noticed every exit sign was off, pitch black, doors locked. I ran to the janitor's closet, slammed the door shut, sat there in the dark, holding my breath, listened. For what felt like forever, nothing. Then faintly, the slow, squeaky sound of a mop being dragged across tile, getting closer. Outside the closet door, I heard the wet slap of shoes on linoleum, and a soft, raspy whisper, "You missed a spot." I never did clock out that night. When the morning crew arrived, they found the doors wide open, lights flickering, my mop lying in the middle of the break room. I don't work there anymore, but sometimes I dream of that place. And when I do, I dream I'm not cleaning alone.